It's ridiculous, eh?
Yeah, but if you
To-do lists are insane.
It's I don't know. I seriously don't know what's going on, mate. It's just, and how's time? What? Like I got up yesterday, and seriously, like within an hour or two, it was dark, and I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it is that solstice time of year where the sun literally just set about half hour ago, and it's like 11 p.m. here.
Oh, really? Yours a bit more. Yeah, I don't know that we get that sort of short, but we get days that are probably 6 hours darkness, maybe.
Then, yeah, it's the one time a year I actually get a tan.
Geez, it's as soon as it hits spring, man, I just go outside and I just change. I just go black.
It's beautiful. Everything's so green.
I'm a binary racial. What do they call them? Biracial. I'm Caucasian in winter and I'm black in summer.
That's a wonderful thing.
So what are we talking about today?
There's just so many things that so just like an update of what I've been doing. Saturday was part of the APEC conference there of engineering, alternative propulsion and engineering conference, and then the first half was streamed off of Jeremy, the Alien Scientist channel, and then he was visiting the research lab there, so then his computer died, so then I ended up actually streaming the other half on my channel, so that was pretty awesome.
I saw that. Yeah,
but yeah, that was 12 hours of physics, so that also might be why my head's still hurting today. But I had some major like epiphany moments when I was like putting together this geometric dimensional unified relativity theory. So I'm working with a couple friends that are artists to help me draw it up, but it's basically 10 geometric shapes that start with the disk as your first dimension, and the rod is your second dimension, sphere is your third dimension, what is the word? And then you got the platonic solids is the next 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 8th is the infinity loop. 9 is the Fibonacci 9 spiral down, and then 10, but also 0 is your full toroid dimension that includes everything. But it's vector force-based theory of relativity, so there's huge mathematical formulas that go along with each dimension, and it'll probably revolutionize the world when it comes out. And like another major part of it is that consciousness and life and like emotional and thought waves, they're also EMF radiation field frequencies. So I'm also including those and metaphysics as well into this dimensional relativity theory. And that's probably going to face the. Sorry?
Is that sort of like the Akashic records? The EMF radiation of thought?
Yeah, and like the law of one, and like consciousness and spirit, sacred geometry, like aura readings, like the sacred sciences, essentially. All your like occult and esoteric sciences, I guess. But
so they're given off. Are they stored like this radiation, or as?
Yeah, like that. Everything is, all information is stored. Nassim Haramein with the Resonance Academy, his theories in physics, the holographic universe, and the Schwarzschild proton papers that he's written and that are actually peer reviewed and fully accepted by the academic world now. They explain how all information is essentially caught in the fabric of space-time, and it's what they would call like your dark energy or your dark matter, but it's all that's in like the full torus, that's like that zero, the everything, the full time dimension, that anything has ever happened has already happened sort of thing, right? Like that in the higher dimensions, as well as higher dimensional consciousness, there's the full time memory, and that would be what some ancients have called the Akashic records, or like collective consciousness and whatnot. So obviously telepathy and stuff like that is part of it. And so a big part of it is that I theorize that since we're in the third dimension on the third planet from the sun, and it's that the first consciousness is like life energy, and then your second is like your yin and your yang, your good or your bad emotional states, right? So, and then the third dimension is the free will, the conscious thinking of it, which we are. And your fourth dimension, quantum mechanics, that's the study of time. So fourth dimensional consciousness would be your consciousness existing throughout all of time. And that's essentially what your soul is, or our souls might be even fifth dimension, somewhere up there. And that while we're stuck in this third dimensional consciousness or incarnation, when you're on that average 3D consciousness, you don't connect to your prior memories, or you don't connect up to like the Akashic records and stuff like that. So say like, I guess the Akashic record or collective consciousness would probably be like your fifth dimensional consciousness, where your fourth dimensional consciousness would be connecting to like your previous lives or like your spirit self or whatnot. And when you have like out of body experiences, or like the psychedelic experiences, or you call it the astral projection, your lucid dreaming, and remote viewing and mediums, those are all types of higher dimensional consciousness as examples. And it's that consciousness can be scaled up on this same dimensional realm, or 10 digit or shape geometric relativity unified theory. And so when you're in, it's been proven, and I forget what there's an amazing presentation of scientists in like the 90s, I think, or maybe even 80s, talking about how your emotional brain waves or thought waves are at a lower frequency. So that would essentially, you're acting off emotion, like you're angry or you're sad, or right, that's how people get into fights, they make rash decisions, and that would be going down into a second dimensional consciousness. And that's why the programming of movies, TVs, the news, why they want you operating in that second dimensional fear state of just acting off impulse and emotion. And if you're up in the right, and then exactly, and if you're operating in a elevated thought of love, light, and happiness and joy, then you're connecting into that fourth dimension, and that's how you're able to meditate more, how you're able to like have that intuition come in more, where the universe is speaking to you, where you feel like you can read people's thoughts and emotions, stuff like that. and it's literally operating on a higher frequency. And it's that we've reached this point that science actually verifies and proves all of these metaphysical like ancient knowledges and techniques and technologies, but it's been suppressed for so long and considered national defense by the military and whatnot, because at the same time, they don't want just random people being able to know what a frequency is. That they could go hack a radio wave band and essentially, who knows, right? Like probably kill a bunch of people. Like not good things. So it's understandable that way, but it's that it's created an entire society and culture of believing that all these things are fake and not possible, and preventing us from evolving and getting into this higher consciousness realm.
Yeah, well, that's what we're given, isn't it? They clearly want to drive us down to everything has to be black and white, right or wrong. You know, you're with us or you're against us. So there's no, that's
exactly the
realm.
Polarized. See, and that's part of the physics, is the two-dimensional pole or rod. The first dimension is your electron plate disk, that moment of time, the 1D disk, or your page of a book, right? And then it's like while you're alive, you're flipping through the cartoon. That's your consciousness going sideways through the physical dimension in the 3D realm. And that the second dimension, the pole or the rod, that's magnetic, and literally you're polarizing the two sides into those two electrical fields, and it actually fits perfectly in, and it's sound that is this and magnetism that are the two-dimensional forces, which is your liquid state, your second dimensional. Your first dimensional being that 1D electron, it's a straight wave, it's your light, it's your air. And so like you said, polarized, but that's that 2D brainwave of just off, either like good, bad, acting on emotion. That like it goes the same way if you're like in a dark place but operating off of love, you instinctively just do everything out of love, right? But like you're not thinking it over. Where say for and like opiates, like we've talked about how I was on opiates for so many years, it's those downers. They're literally called downers, and they're bringing your brainwave down to the second dimension, and then that's all you operate in. You're not able to consciously think or have that free will about you, and that's one way that they trick the modern man and woman out of having free will or using their free will. And
yeah, wow. That they pretty much go for the free thinkers, don't they? You know, with all this mental illness and that, it's always, you know, nah, sorry, you're broken, not, you know, what are you? They never want to talk to them and you know, sort of go through what they're thinking and feeling, do they? They just want to sort of shut it down and go, nah, sorry, everything's black or white, take this pill, yes or no.
Exactly. And then the herd mentality as well. You get into that emotional, just go with the flow of the herd of society. And
so do you think the pole, the magnet, does that have anything to do with like the twin poles, the Boaz and Joachim?
Oh, absolutely. Of course. It's insane. Like that's also another project that I'm going to be working on, is going through all of the ancient writings as well as artworks, and deciphering them and decoding them, and showing you what all of the symbols actually mean, because those symbols are part of it's this ancient symbol language that is also a geometric language of the structure of the universe. It's essentially the God code, and I guess that's why they've kept this knowledge throughout the thousands and thousands of years as being initiated in, because it's of like the highest creation, I guess, but it's that at the same time it's been corrupted through those sacred societies and through those institutions of power
being taken over. Because some of those pictures you see, you know, from 100 years ago or so, you know, and they got the checkerboard going up, then you got the pillars, and then they have it, literally they have different symbols, and it looks like it's
it's your
a line. Like
cathode.
I wonder if it would fit into what you're saying, because literally you can see it, they just look like this ladder of symbols going up to, you know, up to
it
what do they
is.
have on top of the sun normally, I think.
It's actually a science. It's crazy once you start to see it with understand the language and for what it is, it's mind-blowing, and
well
it'll definitely revolutionize the world and what our perception of the past and the future and what we are and where we came from really are.
Well, you can hold so much more information in a symbol than a word, can't you? You know, it kind of reminds me of Babel again.
And in a thought. The power of thought.
Well, I've been thinking about this. It fully restricts your thinking. I can't remember what I was trying to get something done in my mind the other day, and I was just noticing it was just these words come up, and they're like a block, you know, to being able to think bigger and freer. But it's like you know, language is like this. It's like almost a jail for your mind, isn't it? And
it's
symbols,
the spellbound, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then the symbols like hieroglyphs and that, and they say, "Oh, this means water," but I'm sure that means a lot more
like
than,
that,
you know,
and like 15 or 20 other things.
Exactly. That's it. And it's just like, you know, computers. You know, when you see like a blue square with a white F in it, you know, that means a lot of things. It doesn't just mean a website called whatever.
Where's the AI program that is going through and decoding all the languages? Because it should have picked up by now and come out and been like, hey guys, you've got everything absolutely wrong, and here's what it all means. Right. And hopefully that happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've just got to get control back from the invaders, don't we? But I mean, look what's going on. It's
happening, right?
It is happening, man. It's right in front of, you know, this is where, you know, we've got the best seats in the house, like for the whole revolution.
We are the Truman Show.
We're just starting to see it. It's just every day it just gets more crazy. It's unbelievable. So I was going to ask about Nassim before you brought him up, with his 64, is it, tetrahedron grid?
Yes.
Is that the structure of reality? Is that right, that he says?
Yeah, that's the structure of the holographic universe.
Yeah. So does that tie into your and also, just before I say that, you said there's 10 steps, yeah, in your theory?
At least 10 that I've come up with, and it's like we're from third dimensional realm of consciousness, so it's like you grasp a little bit of it at a time and bring it back, sort of thing, like wrapping around your mind around how these higher dimensional things work. Like the hive mind is a sort of dimension, or like
well, there could be side split off dimensions, but is the disc at the bottom, do you think that's 1 or is that 0? Is it 0?
No, that's 1. That's 1. But it's like it's also 99.9999999 as like you're going through that toroid of full time. Right? It's each moment, and each consciousness has its own individual disc through like each moment of time, right? It's pages of each person's book and story, but then that all connects into like the bigger, and Nassim goes into this on how the spiral of everything moving around through the galaxies intertwine like DNA, and that each moment of thought of creation is then like created mass that is left over in the EMF fields of radiation as you pass back, right? So it's actually encoding into the universe as everything's moving along.
So are they essentially different perspectives?
Oh yeah. And so then it's like the toroid, the inside of like a black hole, essentially coming out and expanding exponentially on one end, and then shrinking back into itself exponentially on the other end. And each dimension is essentially a different piece of it. And if you think of a toroid, and you just take a cross section right in the middle, that is a disc. So that is your 1D little piece of any moment of time within the greater time that is everything within the universe in its whole.
It's essentially a viewing place that you can
exactly, and that's how remote viewers essentially are able to go back and view. It's the page of a book of time, but how the universe works it or saves it, and you go through. Nassim's connects the tetrahedron 64, and in my dimensional model, that's like your sixth dimension going into itself, unfolding and refolding into the holographic universe. And so, for instance, like 6-dimensional beings or consciousnesses in a crystal state could be living within our earth of like this honeycomb theory, you know, like that they've now frozen information, light, and memory in crystal, and that's your 6th dimensional, where plasma is your 4th dimension, ether is your 5th dimension, and then you come back into like harder solids and who knows what in the higher dimensions. But the Walter Russell's geometric vortex-based periodic table also fully connects into this model, and the octaves, as well as like the harmony of the spheres, music of the spheres, and platonic solids, and Pythagoras's information like that. Those are all the true, it's the same information, and they understood it. And once you're able to see things and understand geometry in math, you're able to exponentially solve like mathematical equations within your own mind that would be impossible, but are simple when you're understanding a different block of the structure of the universe, right? So you're not having to calculate 35 different fractions and ratios, because you're just adding or multiplying or subtracting or dividing a few different geometric shapes that fit into very basic mathematical structures. So it's an analog version of super advanced mathematics, chemistry, and physics.
Wow. That sounds cool, because I mean that's all we're taught, you know, at schools is accounting pretty much. You know, they might give you a bit of stuff that's sort of to do with engineering, you know, trigonometry and stuff, but there's definitely nothing that goes into, you know, like, you know, the physics of the universe or the ether or anything, is it? It's all, we're not taught what maths really is. We're taught it's just numbers and money and fractions.
Exactly. And there was a huge push between like World War I and after World War II to rewrite this out of modern academia and the Western mindsets and sciences and institutions. And it's what's missing in Einstein's relativity, even though he said that relativity could not exist without the ether. He was made out to be an anti-etherist. And it's like Nikola Tesla was an etherist, Steinmetz was an etherist, and Maxwell's equations were altered to take the ether out of it. And That's what takes the gravity understanding out of it. And it's that modern science or physics and astrophysics and like all the way up to your quantum and your string theory and whatnot, they've only got like I think it's 94.5% now equals dark matter and dark energy. So that is 5.5% of overall unified physics and the universe that they actually understand. And that's like 3.5 of that is theoretical and just math that will fit like perfectly into the everything,
whatever box they put around it. It's just madness, isn't it? And I mean, these guys are put up as the smartest people around, but I mean, we all know clearly in science there's something missing there. It could be dark matter that they're naming it, but everyone's still out there searching for the what is it, the equation of everything, like the unilateral equation that fits, because there's this big disjunct, isn't there, between small physics and large physics.
Exactly, the micro to macro. And that's what it's, the geometry, the dimensional geometry. And a huge part of that as well is the consciousness. So like
that holds it all together.
It's like anybody can go into themselves and then connect to source and like download the understanding of the universe themselves and like focus on it and train and turn themselves into like a yogi or grandmaster and not do a day in school. Or there's those that can believe that, YOLO and like no such thing as any sort of intelligent design or consciousness above myself and everybody else here. And right, so they're never able to go from that 5G technology or dimensional to the 6G or dimension 6 dimension, which is the connected consciousness to the grander scale, right? It's you're trapped down so low. And that technologies as well, because you hear all of these different stories of recovered UFOs and stuff like that, and that they're piloted through consciousness, right? And that's another level of it. And like Mehran Keshi from the Keshi Foundation Spaceship Institute, so much of his current teachings focus on the soul and focus on emotion, right? And it's still that he does that because he understands how much the Western civilizations have moved away from that. But at the same time, then you have any academics that want to go in and listen to his live teachings that are just like, oh, it's a cult, no, right? And it's like, no, you gotta it's so compartmentalized.
It's a good hint to who the whatever entities are that are in control at the moment, who they are, that they're not interested in the soul. And maybe that's because they don't have them.
Oh, exactly, right. And there's lots of UFO or alien stories as well that, like, for instance, the Greys or something, that they don't have souls, so they're here to try to like learn how to reproduce into soul bodies or something like that. And like, I guess essentially it would be an evolved. And one part I heard that they were actually humans from the future traveling back. So it's like, had we cloned ourselves into a soulless creation, or
and they coming back to say, don't do it, because look at the time that it's all being, that they've all appeared.
Which that idea is making me chuckle, because it reminds me of that South Park episode where you have the time travel, gray travelers.
He took my job.
He took my soul.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to be hearing that.
No. But this is the thing. Yeah, time. Well, we're told by all the great thinkers of the past that it's all happening now, and I guess we're just tuned out of that. So it definitely could be. And if
That
you were a time traveler,
once
where
you
would you
get
go?
to a
You'd come to
certain,
this time, wouldn't you? Because it's all going down.
well, and that essentially, though, there's nothing new under the sun. So the now of any time was always the time to be. And that's what we need to wake up and realize, is that there's nothing like the now or the moment. And
Exactly.
so, while we're still somewhat on the topic of UFOs and UAPs, and the recent flop of a disclosure that we were all expecting, it appears the former director of national intelligence, so DNI, John Ratcliffe, and he was actually a pretty good dude. Under Trump, he came out and said there's like no evidence of like Russia interfering with elections, and like it was BS, and would counter the FBI, corrupt FBI lots and whatnot. But he came out and just said that UFOs appear to display technology that the United States does not have and could not defend against. And for the former director of national intelligence, thus the highest spook of all paid spooks in the world and highest ranked intelligence officer, secret intelligence officer of the world, to come out and openly admit that there UFOs out there, that they don't know whose they are and don't know how they have that technology, and all of America could potentially not defend against them, is a pretty good thing to hear, because it admits that the old empire might no longer be in control. That could be a first step of disclosing that there's going to be a change of world power into a galactic or larger structure. The way disclosure works, it's like they can't say it all overnight, but that's essentially what I would interpret out of the former director of national intelligence that's been out of the job for all of 6 months or 5 months now, and that he's calling for a much bigger disclosure and investigation into it, and that the public needs to know. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty huge.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what they do, isn't it? They kind of put little bits of information out, to get it into the public consciousness, and then they'll put a bit more on top. So it sounds like they're sort of saying, well, there might be other people out there somewhere, or other, entities.
Exactly.
I mean, I think we all know there's something else out there. I mean,
right?
We've got other entities ruling us, so there's definitely got to be something out there, right?
And it's that they don't want to openly rule, so maybe we're going to be getting some more power back to the people, hopefully, and that the consciousness continues to raise and awaken.
Definitely. And just as a note to everyone who's watching, we're not saying that the Earth is any particular shape. We're just, saying there's something out there somewhere.
Well, and like I was, another major point of this geometric dimensional theory is that it's unifying, and it actually gives the physics and the understanding to understand that all exist simultaneously together. And it's like the law of attraction, the power of projection, whichever one you put your consciousness into and put your resources into, and the more consciousness that focuses on it, the more information you're going to generate to make that the reality that consciousness is existing within.
Yeah.
And So here's the big thing though with the 1D, and it's that I believe like consciousness is existing and the upside down, to use like the word Netflix Stranger Things, like in the upside down. Or a really good one on HBO is His Dark Materials, and they have multiple different realms, and essentially like the holographic universe or the multi-universe, and that there's several Earth's dimensions living within each other, and that it goes into like all of these rings of dimensions of Earth's like existing within each other. So it's like different time frame sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like the flat Earth model with how the sun moves around and stuff. So it's like different dimensions of like ethers of consciousness existing
in like an orbit
in the
type
realms
thing
of each other. And
yeah. Okay.
so that's what I'm saying. So time is also like your consciousness, so that these 1D discs of memory, that's how consciousness, if you go sideways, you connect into it. And that's why people will take these hallucinogenic drugs that then go into this sideways realm. Or how people with dementia, their consciousness is some like tilted and they're existing simultaneously in two different dimensions at once, or interacting with different entities and stuff like that, other consciousnesses. And that's a huge understanding that is missing from modern psychology, and that was taught and practiced throughout human civilization, and still is in half the world today, and where they understand it. And
that story, have you heard? It was, I think it was in the 70s, and some shamans from South America were in America or somewhere, and they went into a mental hospital, and basically the shaman said, "What are you guys doing? You know, in our community, these would be the people with the knowledge. You know, these would be highly respected people, and what are you doing?"
Right?
Because it's shutting down all those drugs. Just shut all those abilities down.
Exactly. And that's what it is. It's bringing the consciousness down to a lower dimension. And that's why, though, like the doping drugs lowering in people with, say, schizophrenia and stuff, where they have these other voices, these other consciousnesses that are communicating with them, by taking these doping drugs and bringing that vibration level down to the second dimension, it closes it off. So it does make them slower, but they'll either appreciate it because they finally have silence and can just hear their own self thinking and whatnot. And that, for instance, people that take uppers, it's to get their consciousness up to connect into these higher things. But it's when you're using synthetic drugs, it's fake, so that you're then cracking your reality and your connection to your own conscious dimension and the other dimensions. And that's where these other entities, they call them like soul leeches or parasites or whatnot, like the devil on your shoulder, essentially, that comes in, and the body snatchers, right? And it's like that's what turns people into zombies over drug addictions. And that's why shamans would, in societies and tribalistic, we would say, or indigenous cultures, the rite of passage is using a natural plant. So you're using the spirit. This is straight alchemy 101, spiritual alchemy, of using the spirit of that plant, that substance, but through science, it's like the chemical, for instance, DMT, or which is also within your own body. You sleep, you're connecting to it. You're born, you're coming in, you die, you're going out, right? That's a drug that is connecting to the spirit realm, and a chemical that's connecting to that spirit realm. So when you have that chemical going through your blood, through your brain is then putting out the brain waves, your conscious brain waves, on that same frequency of that realm. Thus why you're able to connect to it. but you're going through the spirit of that plant, that chemical. So it's not the pure experience. And that's why different natural drugs will give you these different altered ones. And if you take too much of the drugs where you're chasing it, you're also going to go into dementia, losing your own consciousness here and getting left over there.
Yeah, that's an interesting word, isn't it? Dementia.
It is. And how I understand you got it. And how I learned to understand this is working with so many talented artists over the years. And lots of them the most talented ones would either have some sort of what we call like mental illness, but it's not at all. It's connected into these other dimensions. And I noticed it because the most severe cases, but most talented out of nowhere, would just pick up a pen and draw a masterpiece collage that would include like 85 different faces coming out of different shadows, but then mean devil and angel, naked chicks, but then a Saturn, a quarter moon, and a big full planet. And it's that I started noticing these patterns in not just this first artist, but several others that also had these same mental conditions, but talented art. And it just came to understand that that's how it works. And yeah,
it's interesting that back through history here, especially, it always seems to be the artist, doesn't it, who are kind of on the edge, as we kind of say, or out there or whatever. But I mean, I suppose they have to be, right? Because they're trying to, I guess, art is a language, right? And our language isn't full enough for them to describe what they want to get across, so they have to use
exactly
art.
They're speaking in the geometric dimensional language structure of the universe, and that's why in all these occult paintings, esoteric drawings of the ages, it's all those shapes and dimensionals. And that's actually literally, we say metaphor, but no, it's the language of the structure of the universe and the intelligent design of the universe, but the consciousness that you are a fractal of, that we are a division of, right? It's like, I've always felt and said, like, I am God, but so are you. Yeah. And together humanity could be God of this earth, and we are, but if we come together, then we can reach that higher dimensional consciousness and evolve, right? And we have to stop killing each other first and become a unified, loving, peaceful, prosperous species. And once we're in harmony with ourselves and then harmony with the planet, then we will be able to be in harmony with the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe.
So it's almost like rather than ascending to the fourth or whatever dimension, it's more like we have to figure out how to live in the third dimension, right? Because we seem to be plagued with second dimension, right and wrong, all these polarity kind of things. And, coming together and accepting and discussing is third dimension, right? That's
exactly
thinking for yourself. Yeah.
That's almost fourth dimension, because you're planning ahead. You're thinking consciously, going through time, right? Okay. That you're connecting ahead and you're thinking of others, right? So that you're coming together, so you're actually on a higher elevated thought consciousness.
So third dimension is almost the realization, what people call waking up.
Yeah, it's that you feel that this is good, or you feel that this is bad, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to choose to do good because I want to be a good person, right? Like, yeah, that's the third dimensional free will
acting. Yeah, right. Wow, cool.
And I almost have this grand vision that's just always been in the back of my mind, is what if we one day get to the fifth or the sixth planet in our solar system, and what are we going to find but not just alien civilizations that have been throughout our solar system or galaxy for God knows how long, but also ourselves and our own lost history and consciousness, and did we blow up the fourth planet that we used to live on that had our time connected consciousness? And did we used to be like fifth dimensional beings in a different age? And is that what the asteroid belt is? Is that why half of Mars is covered in craters and blown up? And right. And it's that we have to accept ourselves here and make it a living heaven on earth on this planet before we're allowed to go rebuild the rest of our solar system, and that it's our solar system, but we're still destroying ourselves. And that's why these other higher dimensional entities can't interfere on us or potentially our solar system, but it's that we have to figure ourselves out first. And that too many people are just in that 1D YOLO, acting impulsively, living, going, feeding the machine moments, and or that one ego, just the I, instead of there's also everyone else, or then what is everyone else and my future, and stuff like that. And that's
there's much bigger thinking that can be done, isn't there?
But you just have to go from that one to go within to connect to that zero, that big toroid of everything, and connect to source and your ancestors, like your loved ones, those alive around you or from the past, or like the spirit of our planet, or the greater spirits of like the higher, bigger dimensions. We're just a fractal, a division of a division of a division of creation, but we are creators. Like literally, we are YouTube creators, but we are creators.
We are creators
in every essence of it, and that we all have this equal creation, and that's why it's about building and coming together and making it a better future. And another project I've been working on a lot is I've been reaching out to these different third generation blockchain smart contract crypto companies and asking to be put in contact with their development teams for the NFTs to start getting some of my artwork turned into NFTs, as well as starting to lay the groundwork for like fair trade artist work, as well as platforms for artists, both in music, because I'm going to put my old record label recordings that I have that I own the rights to onto it as well, as like the second part of the project, so that whatever company does decide to like take this on, it's going to be a huge platform for all the artists out there that I'm connected with, and I know lots of different like record labels as well, and like tattoo artists, graffiti artists and stuff, where it's going to be a platform that both brings like a physical asset to this digital currency, as well as a monetization platform in a digital global market to the independent artists out there, and be in a fair trade platform that is guaranteed through the smart contract, that from that point forever, anyone that clicks on it, it's like, hey, 50 cents, I can use this picture in my video forever. But then like that artist is going to be getting that percentage, that point on and on and on that sort of token, where you can make infinite ones, or you could be like, hey, this is the craziest piece of work I've ever done, I'm going to sell it for $5,000, and you can either just make one of them, or you could make 5 of them for $1,000 each, right, and let 5 people enjoy it. But that you'll be able to price your art at where people appreciate the value of art, know how many hours is going into it, and that you can create it into a token and a platform that is going to be infinitely tracked and used. It's the same with the music as well. So this is it's the future for content creation, and this is going to be the biggest next generating, and that's why NFTs blew up right before in the beginning of the year there, and then they cratered so much when the whole crypto market took the Wycliffe dip there. But it's because and then they've suffered, and it's because NFTs have only been on the Ethereum crypto network so far, which has extremely high gas fees, so that it's like people are paying like $20 just to like send a little bit of Ethereum, like that's worth like $5. So like it's just not practical if you're going to be selling a piece of art for $5 or for $10 or whatever, right? And that's why it is going to be so crucial to get it onto one of these third generation smart contract, and which are also energy, they're carbon neutral, and one Algorand's even carbon negative. Where I watched one video today on Bitcoin explaining how there's an exponential power growth with the amount of people that were to use Bitcoin. Like there's 200 million people actively using Bitcoin right now, and so that's like 1%, yet it uses up 1% of a country's power. And so if it's like all of the current amount of Bitcoin mining uses up more power than like Denmark, sort of thing, like that's a lot of global power. But that if it went up to like double that, it would be using the 4% of the world's power, right? And that's only like a 0.5% of the global population using it. So what happens if 10% use it? It's impossible for 10% of the population to ever use Bitcoin. Thus, this is going to be the next major transition over the next 5 years of the Bitcoin dominance coming down, and whatever third generation blockchain smart contract that's energy efficient, that's giving you these staking interests where you're earning something off of holding it, but then also has like the music economy and the art economy going into it, that's also creating physical asset to a digital currency, right? So when the next time the market falls, it's like, hey, this one has like a gazillion hours worth of artwork in it, so that's an actual base
tangible,
where tangible asset that it's not going to tank like the other ones, it's going to hold its value. And that's when you're going to see Bitcoin going from 45% dominance maybe to like 10 or 5% dominance, and where whatever third generation coins it is that becomes that next platform, because there will only be one or two, and that those will be the ones, if you're holding that crypto right now, when it happens sometime in like the next 6 months or a year, it will go up exponential, but it will be also ballooning exponential because it's taking the market cap that's also taking the market cap that's now taking in the government issued cryptos, as well as the old crypto values, as well as this growing population of everybody using it. And
get some coin. So just to break it down for everyone who's not into crypto, basically what it means is, cryptos are electronic currency. So when you trade the currency, the possibilities there to link assets like artwork and all this kind of stuff to the coin. And as you go along, people can link their stuff to it. And if you're an artist, you can say, yeah, everyone can sell it, but I get 50%. And so this is a way as well that, people that, create, the creatives can actually get, good incomes, and they can support themselves just creating, but it will also give value to the coin, because the coin is not
as well as videos and my content creating friends
and everything. I mean, books, you can do anything really. And the more people that add to it, the more valuable that currency becomes. And so it's almost no longer a currency, and that's, because it becomes, based on actual tangible assets. So, that's what all that means. So basically it's money where you get more than money when you trade it. So
picture a future in 3 to 5 years, well, maybe one, but probably 3 to 5 years, where you're paying a $1 Friday night autodidactic Friday movie on YouTube, you know, like, but it's like the video goes with the token, but it's like you don't have to be like Blockbuster where it's like, oh, you don't ever get it again. It's like, no, you can own that forever from that point, right? Like as a creator, you'll be able to forever include the rights and whatnot and decide how ownership goes, and it'll be as simple as just like these tokenomics. Tokenomics, that is the future of video, music, and art creation.
And it'll also make all, you know, contracts, if you want to call them that, personal, you know, without all this legal system and court judicial crap.
Well, it's connecting the human to human legal system, exactly. That the word will be bondable because there'll be this smart recorder that goes in and literally takes what you say and will write it into that contract that you're making with the other person on the other end of this video call. And you will state everything on it, and it will take it and transfer it into the code of your product, of your token, of your currency.
And that's it.
Crypto.
Yeah. So the world is changing fast, guys. If you don't have any crypto or you don't know much about it, there is quite a bit of information out there. And if you want us to chat more about it, we can definitely do that. But we're both sort of
here's one more beautiful thing about it. One more beautiful thing about it is that I want to create a platform where people can, like, instead of volunteering hours of, like, if you're doing video editing or you're doing graphic design or filming or recording, stuff like that, you'll earn tokens worth to, like, buy back into the art that you know when I'm saying that, it's like the amount of time you put in, you'll actually earn those hours worth of tokens back into buying whatever art you want that you'll be able to, like, keep or, like, appreciate, sort of thing, right? And that's an idea I've been working on forever is like an art exchange, so that different artists can put in, like, samples of their music or, like, different logo arts and drawings and stuff. So, like, that, say you're a DJ, you can go in and be like, oh, this picture's awesome for the cover of my album. So, oh, it was 10 hours worth of, you know, artist hours worth of tokens. I can then exchange, like, a beat of my hours worth of tokens into the system and get it back, right? So that it's a platform for artists to both, they'll get recognition of a percentage off of it forever as it gets used in other art, but they'll also be able to earn other people's art that use for people using theirs, and a platform, like you say, that it's person to person, so you don't have to worry about exchanging rates and this and that or getting ripped off. No, you put in time just doing what you love, your passion of your art, and then you're able to access the resources of every other artist out there that's putting in and contributing to this social platform.
And it literally is like that. And the more people contribute, you know, if someone does put 10 hours of music on and for 10 hours of art, then that just increases the value of the coins that it's connected to.
Exactly. You got it.
So it's
it's an exponential growing factor of value that is going to reshape the human energy battery ecosystem.
Definitely better.
And it's going to finally feed and reward artists everywhere for their content creation and sharing. And it's that they'll be, like, sharing free, like, shareware, but as well as earnedware, right? Where it's like, as an artist starting out, like, you're going to want to put, like, something out that anyone can use, it sort of thing, but it'll give you recognition, it'll tag back to you, and then it'll be like, okay, this person can now, like, be at the earn the hours for their own token hour sort of thing, right? And go in that way, and they'll be able to review, and it's like your token value will increase as your art increases. It's the perfect reward exchange and international exchange ever.
Perfect, yeah. And it's based on real things. No more of this you know, business practice of creating things that don't exist and trading on them and all this, you know, creating false, you know, products and all, which they do. They just, you know, and they inflate and deflate things and manipulate it, and it's all really based on the end on nothing, just the perception that piece of paper you're holding is worth a certain amount of money. And even when you believe that, then they manipulate it anyway, right? Look what's happening in the US.
Your GME GameStop.
Yeah.
Right? Like your gold future contract.
Yeah. So
on Robinhood.
Yeah. God, they got that name kind of right, didn't they? The Robin bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, so thank
Much
you,
love,
Wizard
brother.
Bernie.
The wizard.
the
wizard. Space wizard.
All righty.
Space is whatever you create within your own mind.
It is. Yep. Cool. All right. Cheers, mate. Have a good one.
You too, brother.
Talk soon.